Pattern 230, it's time for writing class. Last week we started something new, and I was reading you this book, First Year Letters, and many of you wrote a letter and sent that to me. Thank you very much for doing that. If you have a letter you want to deliver to someone who is at school, either a classmate, another student, or a teacher, send it to me and I will forward it on to the person that you want it to go to. I only read the first half of this book last week, so today we're going to finish this book, and then we're going to talk some more about how to write a letter. In this book, it is about a teacher, and it's her first year being a teacher, Mrs. Hartwell. And at the beginning of the school year, she sets it up so that students can write her letters, and she'll reply to them. So the book is written all in letters. Every page is a different letter. And it's her students writing her and letting her know what they like or what they don't like about their class. And then some silly things happened, like there was a boy who got sick and threw up all over her shoes. Yuck. And also their pet snake, Daisy, got loose. And then the custodian found it in the garbage can. He wrote her a quick little note on a Post-it. A quick little note is also like a letter. It says, December 6th, dear Sarah, I found Daisy Gordon. Just a quick little note, but he still writes it like in the same form as a letter. And then on this page, the fire department had to come and help put out a fire that they created during science class. So it sounds like lots of interesting and lots of interesting things happen in Mrs. Hartwell's class. So let's keep reading and see what's going to happen next. We are now on December 14th. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, I sure enjoyed our field trip to the museum. That guard almost had a heart attack. You jumped over the railing like a real track star. Good thing too, because if that buffalo had fallen over, all those cute little prairie dogs would have been smashed to smithereens. Excitedly yours, Margaret. Here they are on a field trip. This isn't a real buffalo. This is a big stuffed buffalo. And it looks like it's about ready to topple over, and Mrs. Hartwell's having to catch it. December 14th. Sarah Jane. It's true. Field trips are a bit tricky at first. Don't give up. Here are a few books that might help. Fondly, Mrs. Burton. Well, that's nice. The principal wrote a nice encouraging note to Mrs. Hartwell. In this classroom, everyone is a student, everyone is a teacher. January 5th. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, I liked our discussion about good students and good teachers during circle time yesterday. I also liked the sign we made for our door. Sincerely, Alexandra. P.S. A P.S. is what you add on at the end when you need to say something else. P.S. I made a sign just like that and put it up in my kitchen at home. My mom told me to do a little less teaching and a little more learning. You need to explain things to her. We've had this conversation in our classroom, haven't we? That everyone is a student and everyone is a teacher. February 3rd. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, yesterday was the best. You looked good, except that your legs were too skinny and you needed more stuffing around the middle. I saw the other kids watching us when we went outside to look for your shadow. I bet they were jealous. Sincerely, Zach. This is Groundhog Day. I don't know if you know what Groundhog Day is. It's a day in the winter where superstition says that if a groundhog comes up out of his hole that he lives in and he sees his own shadow, it will scare him and he'll go back inside, and that means there'll be 6 more weeks of winter. So here Mrs. Hartwell is dressed up as a groundhog. They do a lot of fun things in their class, don't they? February 28th. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, guess what? I got a letter from the president and he asked me to vote for him, but I'm wondering if he knows I'm the only in elementary school. Do you think Superman has an address? Because I looked and he's not in the phone book. Josh. Sounds like Josh is having fun writing letters to all kinds of people. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, I really don't think I needed to hold your hand the whole time we were at the aquarium yesterday. On the bus ride back to school, Sam said that you were my girlfriend. Sincerely, Eddie. Oh dear. kids are teasing this boy because he felt like he needed to hold the teacher's hand. That's not very nice. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, who knew that a few little birthday candles would set off the sprinklers? Heck, I never even saw those sprinklers before today. Tell Mr. Hartwell that the cake still tasted okay, even if it was a little wet. Did you like our happy birthday song? With best wishes, Daniel. Uh-oh. So this is the second time the fire department has had to come to Mrs. Hartwell's classroom. This time it's because the smoke detector was set off because of the birthday candles. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, I've enjoyed getting to know you and your class this year, but I must ask that from now on you refrain from using anything that burns, smokes, or even gets hot. By the way, tell everyone that I hung up all their thank you letters at the firehouse. Sincerely, Phil. So here's one of the firemen writing Miss Hartwell a letter, and he's asking her, please don't burn anything in your class anymore. May 6th, dear Mrs. Hartwell, thanks for the letter. I'm proud of me too. I know my writing has gotten much better. Maybe it's all the practice I'm getting. By the way, do you know the address of any astronauts? Sincerely, Josh. Look at Josh's letter. Do you remember at the beginning of the book how his letter looked really messy? And look at it now. He is getting better as a writer, isn't he? So are you. You've been practicing your writing all year long, and you are getting better. May 27th, dear Mrs. Hartwell. You didn't look scared or nervous today when Mrs. Burton visited our class. I told her that you were my absolute favorite teacher, and guess what? She said that this school has never, ever had a teacher quite like you. We sure are lucky. Sincerely, Carl. May 31st. Dear Sarah Jane, please come to my office tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Mrs. Burton. Uh-oh, I hope Mrs. Hartwell doesn't think she's in trouble or anything. Oh, congratulations on a great year, Sarah Jane Hartwell. Oh, look at that. They surprised her with a cake. And look, even the fire department came, and there's the custodian, Mr. Gordon, and all of her students. And there's Mrs. Burwell, the principal. Everybody is there to say that they think she did a good job. That's nice. It's nice to know that you're appreciated. Dear kids, thank you for a great year. I'm lucky to have had such wonderful students, and I couldn't have asked for better teachers. Love, Mrs. Hartwell. P.S. Has anyone seen Daisy? There she is right there. That's a fun book. It's really fun to think about all those things that they did in their class. It makes me wish that we could still be in our classroom in room 230. But I'm so glad that I get to spend time with you anyways during our Zoom lessons and texting and emailing with each other. So I wanted to remind you what it looks like when we write a letter and what are the important parts we need to include. We just saw a whole bunch of examples of letters, but I want to show you one from our own class. Anthony sent in a lovely letter that I want to share with you. Here it is. He used that paper that I mailed you guys, and notice that the heart is at the top. That's how you know where the top of the page is. And when I read Anthony's letter, I noticed he included a date, May 14th, 2020, and he included a greeting to Miss Safrick. These are lovely, well done, and he also remembered to put a comma. The comma goes after the date and before the year, and then at the end of the greeting, to Miss Safrick, comma. Nice work including a comma here and a comma here. And then in the body of the letter, he says, it was a long time since I saw you, or I think that was a week ago, but I'll miss you because you won't be at Graham Hill next school year. I hope I'll do a great job in 3rd grade. What are you doing at your house? I believe you will become a great teacher. From Anthony. And then Anthony did a really nice job here too. We'll talk about this in our next lesson, but this is his signature. So he writes the word from and then remembered a comma here too, and then put his name, Anthony. Well done, Anthony. This is a beautiful letter, and I know that Miss Safrick is going to appreciate it so much. There's something interesting about Anthony's letter that I want to point out to you. He uses something that we call a contraction in a couple of different places. Do you see this word right here, I'll? But I'll miss you. This word I'll is spelled I and then an apostrophe LL. Do you know what that word I'll means? What does I'll stand for? That's right. I'll is two words smushed together. It's the word I and will, squished together into one word. He does it again over here. Won't. W-O-N apostrophe T. Because you won't be at Graham Hill next year. Won't. That one's a silly one. Won't is the combination of the word will and not, and it gets squished into won't. That one doesn't make quite as much sense as I'll. Let me show you what I mean. If we take the word I'll, we can see that I'll is the same thing as the words I will. And when you make the word I will, you just take out this middle part right here, the W and the I, and you squish them together into one word. And then to show that you took out some letters, you put the apostrophe in its place. So I'll is the same thing as I will. Anthony also used the word won't, which is the same thing as will not. Same thing, except for won't is a little bit of a rule breaker because for some reason they decided to put the O over here. So, and then the apostrophe goes here because they took out the O and the NT. It should be won't, but for some reason it's not, it's won't. Let me show you another example. What if we wanted to say she will? That becomes she'll. She'll is the same thing as she will. Or if I want to say I haven't written a letter yet, haven't is the same thing as have not. So a contraction, these are all contractions. We call these contractions. A contraction is when you have two words that get squished together into one word. And then some of the letters get taken out. And where those letters are taken out, we put an apostrophe in its place, this little dash mark up at the top. So I want you to think about contractions when you're writing a letter. You might already be writing them and not even realizing you're doing it. I think a lot of you already know how to use them, but maybe you aren't really thinking about how they should be spelled or where the apostrophe should go. So to help us think about contractions this week, I want you to do 3 pages in your Being a Writer workbook. Pages 79, 80, and 81 are all about contractions. So this one says, he's my furry friend. And you are to read each sentence, find and circle the contraction, and then write the words that form the contraction over here. So for instance, the first one says, I've become the proud owner of a kitten. What does I've stand for? Well, if you're not sure, that's okay. You can look up here because they have a key up here that'll help you. And here I see it right here. I've stands for I have. So you can either say I've become the proud owner of a kitten, or you can say I have become the proud owner of a kitten. Both of those work. So circle the contraction and then write what the contraction is over here. And then follow the directions here and write some sentences about a pet using contractions. And then I want you to do these 2 pages as well, following the directions. Here you are to underline the contractions. Here you're to change these words into a contraction. And over here, you are to find the 5 mistakes in the paragraph. So that's assignment number 1. That's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to practice writing contractions. And I want you to do that in this. When you're done, ask your parent to borrow their phone or have them do it for you, or an older sibling, and snap a picture of it and then send it to me, either in text or email. The second thing I want you to do is on IXL. I'll show you what it looks like. In IXL, if you go to Language Arts, Level D, and then scroll way down to the very bottom, there is this section called XX, Contractions. And then there's another section called YY, Punctuation. And you're going to see that all of this is about contractions, which is what we just talked about. And all of this is about commas, which is what we're also talking about with our letters. So that's your second assignment, is that I want you to go to IXL, Language Arts, Level D, and then do sections XX and YY. But wait, there's more. The third thing I want you to do is I want you to use your writing paper that I mailed to you, and I want you to write a letter. Up here is where the date goes, and then write the greeting, and then in the body of the letter, you can write a letter to whomever you want to. It can be another student, it can be a teacher, or it can be somebody in your house. And then down at the bottom, you're going to write sincerely, or love, or from, and then your name. So I'll show you what it looks like with the letter that I wrote last week. This is the letter I wrote Miss Safrick last week. So here at the top, you put the date, May 10th, comma, 2020. Of course, it's not May 10th anymore, so you'll put the today's date. Dear Miss Safrick, comma. And then you're going to write your, what we call the body of the letter, where you're asking the person, how are you doing? You're telling them how you're feeling, you're telling them what you're doing, and then at the bottom, you sign it sincerely, and then put your name. I'm seeing that I used a lot of contractions in my letter. The very first one is a contraction, it's. It's is short for it is. And then I see another one right here, I've. I've is short for I have. I bet you'll be surprised how often you use contractions when you write your letter. So this is your assignment, your third assignment for writing. You have 3 assignments this week. You're going to do your workbook pages on contractions. You're going to do IXL, sections XX and YY, and you're going to write a letter and take a picture of it and send it to me. And then if you want me to deliver it, I will deliver it to wherever you want me to deliver it to. So lots of work, so make sure that you get to it and send it to me. If you have any questions about it or not sure what to do, you can always call me or text me and I can help. All right, Room 230, it's always fun when we see each other. I'm looking forward to seeing you in your math groups and your reading groups and at class meeting this week. So let me know if you have any questions, and until then, I'll say goodbye.